Colman Domingo walks into the studio with the same calm presence he carries everywhere. And the lights glow softly, and the room feels warm, and the air feels easy. And the interviewer greets him with a smile, and Colman settles into his seat with that smooth confidence that makes him unforgettable. He is here to talk about his new film, The Running Man. And the energy feels focused, and the cameras blink red, and the microphones hum, and everything seems like a normal press stop, until one unexpected moment shifts the conversation and sends fans into a frenzy. The interviewer asks a simple question about what Colman watches during his downtime, and Colman laughs, soft and warm, and his eyes brighten with mischief, and he says he has been hyping up Real Housewives of Atlanta. And the room shifts, and the producer's head lifts, and the interviewer leans in, and suddenly Colman Domingo, Oscar nominee, Broadway king, dramatic powerhouse, becomes something even more relatable and delightful. A full-on RHOA superfan. He says it proudly. He says it loudly. He says it without hesitation. "It's the only one I watch," he confesses. And the interviewer laughs in surprise, and Colman nods with a playful seriousness, and he adds, "I have stayed with it, even though sometimes I hate watch it. But that's the only way to watch TV now." And the studio erupts into laughter, because Colman just said what millions of Bravo fans say every week. He leans back in his chair, and he explains why the Atlanta ladies grab him every season, every storyline, every chaotic dinner, every shady moment. He talks about how fascinating it is to watch women who choose to show everything. And he gestures with his hands, and he describes how opposite their world is from his own, because he likes to keep his personal life private. And he admires their boldness, and he loves the rawness, and he says that even A-list actors need a little escapism, and for him, that escapism lives in every wild, loud, shocking, and hilarious moment that happens on RHOA. The interviewer asks who his favorite housewife is, and Colman groans dramatically, and he laughs, and he says that this is the hardest question of all. And he explains that he has befriended so many of them over the years, and he smiles at the memories, and he says he admires each for different reasons. And he lists a few names quickly, and the interviewer insists he chooses one. Just one. Colman runs a hand across his chin, and he squints as if he's weighing the fate of the universe. And then he finally says it. Kandi Burruss, Queen of Hustle, Queen of Broadway, Queen of the Bag, Queen of Longevity. Colman grins, and he explains that their connection runs deeper than TV, because of their shared ties to the theater world. And he says he loves her professionalism, and her work ethic, and her creativity. And then he adds with a laugh that she is just fun to watch, because Kandi always stays real. The interviewer nods vigorously, and the conversation picks up momentum. And Colman starts talking about seasons and moments and scenes and confessions, and now the whole studio feels like two friends gossiping at brunch. He talks about the iconic dinner clashes and the trip meltdowns and the confessional shade that has become a cultural treasure. He talks about how the women know how to turn small tension into a cinematic spectacle, and he says that even when the drama gets messy, there is heart behind it, and he admires that too. The interviewer laughs and asks what Colman thinks about the latest drama swirling around the 2025 season, and Colman raises his eyebrows and says he has thoughts, many thoughts, but he laughs and refuses to reveal them yet. And the mystery makes the studio lean in. The interviewer mentions Kelly Farrell and the legal help she received from Phaedra, and Colman shakes his head slowly, and he says, "Only on Atlanta." And he laughs again, because that storyline feels like something only RHOA could deliver, with that level of chaos and charm. Then comes the question that makes Colman pause. What does he think about the recent mess with Britt Eady and her pistol? And the room quiets for a beat, and Colman presses his lips together, and then he bursts into a quick laugh. A laugh that says he has opinions but knows better than to spill them all on camera. He lifts his hands, palms out, and says, "Now listen, these women are entertaining, but some of these moments, Lord have mercy." And the interviewer laughs so hard she covers her face. And the producer laughs behind the soundboard, and Colman shakes his head with that charming mix of amusement and disbelief. He says the show keeps surprising him season after season, even when he thinks he has seen every twist possible. He says the cast knows how to give television in a way that feels unique to Atlanta. He says they understand shade the way poets understand words. He says the show has rhythm and chaos and humor and vulnerability, and all of it keeps him hooked every week. The interviewer asks when he became a fan, and Colman thinks for a moment, and he says it started years ago, during a period when he needed something fun and bold and ridiculous to balance the seriousness of his acting roles. And someone recommended RHOA, and he said he only intended to watch one episode, and then 4 hours passed, and he was still glued to the screen. And he laughs at the memory and says he has never looked back. He talks about the early seasons and the old feuds, and Nene's unforgettable shade, and Shereé's legendary lines, and Kenya's twirl, and Porsha's evolution, and Cynthia's elegance, and Kandi's consistency. And the interviewer watches him with surprise because he remembers everything, absolutely everything. Like a historian of Bravo culture, he even quotes lines, he imitates confessionals, he reenacts scenes, he smiles through every memory. He looks like a man who loves the show with his whole heart, and that makes the moment even more delightful. As the interview continues, the tone becomes more playful, and Colman describes how watching The Housewives helps him unwind after intense filming days, and he compares the chaos of the show to a roller coaster. He willingly climbs back onto every week, and he says he doesn't judge the cast for their openness, because he knows how hard it is to be vulnerable on camera. But he admires them for doing it anyway. He admires their strength, and he admires their courage, and he admires the way they turn personal moments into cultural conversations. The interviewer asks if he would ever appear on the show, even for a cameo, and Colman laughs loudly and says he does not think he wants cameras in his face while he buys groceries, but he would absolutely say hello to the ladies if he ran into them at an event. And he grins because he knows fans would love that. He says watching the show is enough. Being in the show is another level of exposure. He likes the balance he has now. The interview begins to wrap, and the energy feels warm and bright, and the moment feels iconic already. An acclaimed actor, a beloved franchise, a crossover nobody expected, but everybody loves. Colman stands up after the interview wraps, and he thanks everyone with that warm charm he always carries. And the crew gushes about how fun the conversation was, and he laughs softly. And he says talking about RHOA feels like talking about an old friend. He steps into the hallway, and the lights feel brighter, and he walks slowly toward the exit. And he reflects on the unexpected joy of the moment, because he knows fans will latch onto his confession the second the clip hits the internet. He puts on his sunglasses, and he waves goodbye to the staff, and he steps outside into the London air, and he feels the cool breeze brush his face, and he thinks about how strange and beautiful it is that a show like Real Housewives of Atlanta became such a comfort to him, especially during long days of filming, traveling, and juggling his intense roles. He gets into his car, and the door shuts softly, and the engine hums, and he leans back, and he smiles as he imagines Bravo fans losing their minds over his love for the Atlanta ladies. He knows the culture, he knows the memes, he knows the shade, and he knows that Bravo viewers adore celebrity fans who truly understand the magic of the franchise. The car pulls away from the studio, and Colman glances at his phone, and a new message pops up from a friend who already saw a leaked clip from the interview. And the message says, "Not you being an ATL stan." And Colman laughs so loudly that the driver glances in the mirror with amusement. He texts back a simple, "Proudly," and he puts his phone away, and he thinks about how real the obsession is. He remembers the first time he watched Nene Leakes deliver one of her iconic reads. And he remembers how he had to pause the episode because he could not stop laughing. And he remembers rewinding it 3 times just to see it again. He remembers watching Phaedra walk into scenes with calm confidence and then deliver lines that became instantly legendary. He remembers Kenya Moore spinning with grace while causing chaos with one raised eyebrow. He remembers Kandi Burruss keeping the peace, then losing the peace, then restoring the peace, all while running businesses, performing on Broadway, and making money in every corner of her life. He remembers Cynthia Bailey moving with elegance, and Shereé Whitfield building her brand one jogger and one spring-summer launch at a time. He remembers Porsha Williams evolving from party girl to activist, and how that journey made him emotional. And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes why the show hooked him so completely. It wasn't just the shade, it wasn't just the fights, it wasn't just the glamorous trips or the wild reunions. It was the women themselves. Loud, strong, flawed, brilliant, funny, emotional, brave, real. He admired them for putting their entire lives in front of cameras, even when it hurt, even when it embarrassed them, even when viewers judged them ruthlessly. He admired their ability to stand up, to fall, to rise, to forgive, to fight, to rebuild, and to return every season with new stories and new challenges. The car stops at a red light, and Colman watches people walking by, and he wonders if any of them know how entertaining and meaningful this show has been for him. Probably not. But that's part of the fun. His love for the show feels like a secret hobby, even though he just shared it publicly. And he knows that sharing it will spark conversations everywhere, because the RHOA fandom loves when unexpected names join the club. The car moves again, and the city blurs past the window, and Colman leans back, and he thinks about the latest season, and he wonders what scenes he will get next. And he laughs quietly at the thought of Britt Edie and her pistol drama, because that storyline still shocks him, and he shakes his head because only in Atlanta would a moment like that explode into a cultural talking point. He thinks about Kelly Farrell calling Phaedra Parks for legal help, and he imagines Phaedra standing in a courtroom with her signature calm expression. And he smiles, because Phaedra always knows how to handle a scandal. He wonders what Kandi thinks about all of it, and he imagines her rolling her eyes, laughing, and delivering her classic, "I'm not doing this today" energy. He imagines Kenya analyzing every detail and stirring the pot just enough to keep things fun. He imagines Shereé popping in with a comment that sends everyone screaming. He imagines Porsha making the moment even bigger with one dramatic expression. And he imagines all the women sitting together at a reunion, while Andy Cohen tries to control the chaos. The car turns a corner, and Colman checks his schedule, and he sees he has another interview in an hour. And he sighs softly, and he rubs his eyes, and he thinks about how exhausting press tours can be, but he feels lighter after talking about something that makes him laugh instead of work. He takes a breath, long and slow, and he appreciates the moment, because joy like this is rare during a busy press run. The car stops outside his hotel, and he steps out, and a small group of fans spot him instantly, and they wave, and he waves back warmly, and someone asks about his new movie, and someone else asks for a photo, and someone yells, "We love you, Colman!" And he grins wide, and he takes pictures, and he chats briefly, and he feels grateful for the support. He enters the hotel lobby, and the chandeliers glow softly above him, and the marble floor reflects the warm light, and the space feels calm compared to the bustling studio. He takes the elevator up to his room, and as the doors close, he pulls out his phone again, and he checks Twitter, and the clip from the interview is already trending. People are screaming, laughing, quoting him, tagging cast members, making memes of him saying he sometimes hate-watches the show. Someone even posted a side-by-side of Colman in a dramatic movie scene and a Real Housewives fight scene with the caption, "Same energy." He laughs again, because the internet moves fast, and Bravo fans move faster, and he knows by tonight the clip will be everywhere. He enters his hotel room, and he places his bag on the table, and he sits on the edge of the bed, and he thinks about how funny life can be. One minute he is promoting an action movie, the next he is trending for being a Real Housewives of Atlanta superfan. But he doesn't mind. Not even a little. If anything, he enjoys it. Because the world feels heavy often. Politics, news, pressure, deadlines, grief, work, responsibility. And RHOA gives him a place to breathe, a place to laugh, a place to watch drama unfold with no consequences to his real life. He grabs a bottle of water, and he drinks slowly, and he stretches his legs, and he lets the moment settle. He opens Instagram, and he sees the clip posted on fan pages, and he scrolls through the comments, and he sees nothing but love. Colman is one of us. This is amazing. Him standing Kandi is everything. He needs to be a friend of the show. The comments keep coming, and Colman shakes his head with amusement. And he likes a few posts quietly, and he sets his phone down, and he lies back on the bed fully clothed, and he closes his eyes for a moment, and he smiles. Because the world just discovered another piece of who he is, and that piece happens to love Atlanta's finest reality stars, and he is perfectly okay with that. Colman opens his eyes again after a brief rest, and the ceiling comes back into focus, and he laughs softly because he cannot stop thinking about how wild the internet reaction will be by tonight. And he sits up slowly, and he stretches his arms, and he checks his phone again, and he sees notifications exploding even more, and he scrolls quickly, and he notices that a few RHOA cast members have already liked or commented on fan posts about his interview, and that makes his heart flutter with excitement, and he wonders what Kandi Burruss thinks, and he imagines her watching the clip and smiling that warm Kandi smile, and he imagines Nene Leakes somewhere giving a playful nod of approval, and he imagines Phaedra Parks fixing her lashes while saying, "Well, of course he loves the girls," and he imagines Kenya Moore twirling with satisfaction, and he imagines Shereé Whitfield adjusting her jogging suit while saying, Who gon' check him? And the thought of it all fills him with joy so simple and so pure that he sits back on the bed and just lets the moment wash over him like soft music. He stands up again, and he walks toward the window, and he pulls the curtain open, and the city glows below him. And he feels calm, and he feels grounded, and he feels thankful for something as small and silly as a reality show that somehow became a part of his life in a meaningful way. And he thinks about why he loves the show, and he realizes it is not just entertainment for him, but a strange mix of comfort and fascination. Something that reminds him that people can be messy and dramatic and flawed and still be lovable, still be strong, still be iconic. He walks to the hotel desk, and he sits down, and he opens his laptop to check his notes for tomorrow's press appearances, and he laughs again, because he knows every interviewer from this moment forward will bring up RHOA, and he is prepared, and he is ready to lean into the fun of it. He imagines reporters asking him to rank his favorite casts, and he imagines himself refusing because he loves them all for different reasons. And he imagines talking about old seasons, and about iconic moments, and about reunion battles, and about friendships, and about breakups, and about shade, and about redemption arcs. And he feels excited, because talking about RHOA feels easier than talking about the pressure of awards, or the intensity of filming, or the weight of big roles. He shuts the laptop again, and he walks back to the bed, and he lies down fully, and he lets the room fall quiet, and he takes a deep breath. He starts thinking about how funny it is that fans now want to hear his thoughts on Kelly Farrell's legal drama, and he imagines himself sitting on a panel one day breaking down the storyline like an analyst, and he laughs out loud because he knows he would absolutely do it if Bravo ever called, and he thinks about Britt Eady again, and the whole pistol situation, and he shakes his head because the chaos never ends in Atlanta, and he wonders if the cast will ever calm down. And then he laughs because he knows the answer is absolutely not, and that is exactly why he loves them. He sits up again, and he picks up his phone, and he scrolls through fan tweets, and he sees someone ask, "Would Colman ever appear on RHOA?" And he responds in his head with a playful, "Baby, never say never." And he imagines a cameo where he walks into a scene wearing sunglasses and a calm expression while the ladies scream around him. And he giggles because it feels like something the viewers would lose their minds over. He stands up again, and he walks into the bathroom, and he washes his face, and he looks in the mirror, and he sees a man who works hard, who carries heavy roles, who faces long days, who travels constantly, but who also finds joy in the simple things, like an episode of reality television filled with drama and laughter and heart. He turns the water off, and he steps back into the room, and he feels hunger creeping in, and he orders room service, and he sits on the sofa while he waits, and he checks his messages. He sees one from an old friend who says, "You just became my favorite celebrity." And he smiles because he knows exactly what they mean. And the food arrives, and he eats quietly, and the city lights shimmer beyond the window, and he feels peace in a way that surprises him. He finishes eating, and he cleans up, and he returns to the bed, and he lays down again, and his mind drifts slowly toward rest. But he keeps thinking about how this moment will follow him throughout the rest of the press tour, and how fans will ask for his opinions, and how cast members might comment back, and how Bravo might even joke about bringing him on Watch What Happens Live for a segment dedicated to RHOA alone. He imagines sitting with Andy Cohen, and he imagines Andy asking him to play a shady game, and he imagines answering with playful honesty, and he imagines viewers cheering, and he imagines the internet exploding with clips and memes, and he feels warmth fill his chest again. He takes another breath, slow and deep, and he closes his eyes, and he thinks about how this silly moment, this tiny confession, somehow turned his entire day into something memorable and fun, and he drifts deeper into relaxation, and his thoughts spiral gently through memories of his favorite RHOA scenes, from Nene walking out of the reunion, to Porsha chasing down truth, to Kandi defending herself calmly and firmly, to Kenya delivering shade with a glance, to Phaedra executing iconic one-liners without breaking a sweat, and each memory feels like a little spark of joy. He thinks about how being a fan reminds him that even the biggest stars need something to unwind with, something to laugh at, something to escape into, and he knows RHOA is that space for him. And he is grateful. His phone buzzes one final time before he drifts towards sleep, and he checks it. And he sees a simple message from a fellow actor friend that says, "Only you would make Housewives classy." And Colman laughs quietly. And he sets the phone down, and he lets his eyelids fall, and the room grows softer, and the lights dim, and the world becomes quiet, and he drifts gently into rest, knowing that tomorrow the world will keep talking, and fans will keep reacting, and interviews will keep happening, and he will keep being the same man who loves brilliant storytelling, powerful acting, and a good dose of Atlanta drama. He falls asleep peacefully, and the city hums outside, and his heart feels light, and the story settles beautifully, because he knows that sometimes the simplest truths are the most fun. And his truth is that he loves Real Housewives of Atlanta, and he is proud of it, and tomorrow he will laugh about it, and talk about it, and embrace it fully, because joy is joy, and Atlanta always delivers it.